We're going to start in 2 minutes because quite a lot of people have registered this afternoon. We'll see how many actually turn up. And just to explain the format of this, my name is Gary Parker. I'm the Managing Director of C&T Associates, and I'm going to do a presentation. It's an overview on issues around being a consultant, developing a consultancy. And then I'm going to be joined by two guests. One of my guests who's here already is Stuart Brighton, who's an independent consultant with significant experience. I'm going to do a short interview with him, and he's going to tell you something about his background and his work and the key issues involved in consultancy. We've also got Rachel Barham, hopefully from the Federation of Small Businesses, who is a regional recruiter, who will do a short presentation at the end, because that's something very, very useful for new consultants. Okay, we've got 11 people online, so I'm going to start in approximately 1 minute. Just to explain as well about, hi Linda, just to explain about how this will work. We do send out straight after this event today a summary of the presentation. You know, this is about 40 slides. We send a summary of it, which is not as many as that. It's about half the number, 18 to 20 slides. If you want the full presentation, you can buy that off us. The costs and the other information will be in the email that you will get. And there's also a couple of other special offers. If you don't want any of that, you will get a copy of the summary presentation for free. And that will be sent out straight after this to everyone who attends today. Okay, I'm going to start now. What I'm going to do is to do the presentation on So You Want to Be a Consultant. I'm going to share the screen in a moment, and it will cover all the key issues. Afterwards, I will take questions. You can put them in the chat as well, and it's the same for Stuart. You put them either in the chat, or you can ask us on screen by raising your hand, either physically or on the participants section of the presentation. So here we go. Just to explain the background of this, this is a presentation I've been running for about 10 years, actually. First run it in 2010. It obviously has changed since then. It tends to happen at times of significant change. Obviously, in or up to 2010, we had the Great Crash, and then after 2010, we didn't run it for 2 years till 2013, when there was a lot of government spending cuts and other things happening. And then we ran it in 2016. In 2019 was the last time we actually did this. Obviously, last year was a very special year, so it is an interesting indicator of economic activity one way or another. And I'm going to share the screen right now. So here we go. Right. This is entitled So You Want to Be a Consultant, and it is basically an overview of the key issues if you want to be a consultant. And we're going to give you some advice and some pointers on this. So what are the objectives of this? To support the development of your business or business idea. Look at things like trading status, legal structure. Look at some things around digital media. Funding a little bit. Maximizing promotion and publicity. some pointers about how to compete effectively in the market, because this is a business and you're in a market, and consultancy is very competitive. And then some pointers to help you and your business be sustainable through skills and business development. So what is a consultant? Well, I looked this up very recently. This is a new addition to this about what it actually means. Consultant comes from the Latin consultare, which means to discuss. And I think this is this definition. It's one of the ones I found. A person engaged to provide professional services or services for a fee, but not as an employee of the business that engages him or her. So that's those two good definitions of what a consultant is. It can take many different forms and focuses. You could, for example, work in a particular area such as catering and hospitality, management, security, electronic or physical, management, accountancy, law, human resources, and finance, engineering, sciences, and many other areas. You're usually self-employed or run a company. It could be a sole director company or some other format to deliver these services, though you can work for a consultancy firm as an employee. And of course, there are some very large consultancy firms around the world. And there are consultancy organizations, large and small, and many specialist ones. So where to start? We start with a number of consultancy related websites to give you some assistance. This is not everyone, this is a selection that I came across. One of them is IPSI, the Association for Independent Professionals and the Self-Employed. They've been running a lot of campaigns on sorts of issues in recent years. Check their website, but it's mainly around lobbying the government to improve the lot of the self-employed, which of course includes consultants. The Institute of Consulting is another one, which is a kind of a professional body. And then there's a whole range of other ones. I picked three out here because the Arts Services Directory, which is a kind of professional directory with other support, the Association of Recruitment Consultancies, that's for people in HR, etc. And then there's some financial consultancy ones. But you know, there are many. You know, I think today we got people who specialise or hope to work in different areas, and it does depend on what particular sector you are in, and we'll look at some of those a bit later. This is from a book by somebody called S. Nash called So You Want to Be, So You Want to Work in Consultancy, I think. And they look at some of the characteristics. For example, you need as a consultant, obviously you need to know something about consultancy process awareness. You need to have subject knowledge. I'm kind of presuming that people have got the subject knowledge or usually have it, and that's one of the reasons why they want to be a consultant. But like with many other businesses, one of the reasons why many businesses, I think it's up to 60% of businesses fail within the first 5 years, is you need to learn something about business management. And that's one of the keys to this. Remember, you're running a business now. You obviously need to know your sector, whatever it is, but you also need to know something about a business and how to run one. And my advice is to do that before you even enter this, if you can. That's not always possible for some people. There are certain skills that you need: literacy, numeracy, research, communication. There are others. And then personality, that's an interesting one. I think with most people who are in business of any kind, selling services, of course, people are buying you personally as much as the service. So you have to establish your credibility, behave in an ethical way, and then there are other things you need to be aware of, like networking, how to get work. Many consultants get work through personal and other networks and repeat business. That's the big channels. They're not the only channels for getting consultancy work, but they are significant ones. And then, of course, the other one is lifestyle. Many people who set up businesses don't always realize how much effort and time you may have to put into it, particularly in the early years. Later, if it's become more established, it might be easier, particularly if you employ people. But in the early days, you need to look at how this might impact on your lifestyle and other personal considerations. Which leads me on to some information about skills, knowledge, and abilities. Does consulting fit your lifestyle? I've just mentioned that. Depends on your personal considerations, but you certainly need to take that into account. Can you deliver the work? And can you organize it? I mean, these are basic questions, but you really need to think about them. And then the other thing, many consultants operate on a 10-month year, because often in consultancy you find that obviously in the Christmas period it's not always busy, and then there are holiday periods as well where people might, like August, for example, in a normal year, of course, because we haven't had a normal year in the past year or so. And you need to take these into account. Can you manage cash flow, which kind of runs off from those? Can you manage your finances to make sure not only that you can generate enough money to support the business, but then fulfill tax and other obligations, because obviously you have to keep money aside from that. So again, there's quite a lot of issues around that you need to think about. Is this work something you really enjoy? You've got to enjoy it, really. You've got to love doing it. In the early days, you may not make money or not make much money, and many businesses in the early years often make a loss. You know, it's not always the case, but some do. So you've got to take these issues into account. We'll move on now. One of the first issues, these are structural issues first, is around what the legal status of your consultancy business will be. There are a number of options that you've got. For example, the most common one is a sole trader, which is, I would define as a micro business, normally one individual, and you're responsible for all your national insurance, tax returns, insurance, and other costs related to your business. What are the benefits of that? Well, number one is you are your own boss. And there's responsibility with all that brings with it. So no one can fire you. You can only fire yourself. And it's flexible. You work your hours. So, you know, and with increases in online working, you can work in the middle of the night in many sectors, etc., etc. So there is flexibility there. And there are some advantages to being a sole trader. Against, these are some of the disadvantages. It can be a lonely business. You can really benefit from being able to discuss and work with colleagues. It's difficult to network as an individual. And you need to have a network or get into a network. I'm sure Rachel from FSB, when she speaks later, will talk about this, because there are ways to address this. You can only take on the work that you can do, generally speaking, unless you work in partnership with others or subcontract to others. But there can be issues around that as well. And generally speaking, you cannot bid for government contracts, because governments, generally speaking, it's not always the case, but generally that's local, regional, national government tend to prefer working with organisations, companies, or non-profits, whoever, for a whole host of reasons. So again, there's some interesting issues for consideration there. Moving on from that, one of the other things you can do is you can set up a limited company. The two most popular types are company limited by shares, were you as a director of the only shareholding, which entitles you to, as an individual, to a share of the profits that you can levy as a dividend, as well as being paid if you wish to do it that way. I think with all of these, you should get some advice from professional accountants or other professionals, or again, you can get a lot of advice through the Federation of Small Businesses. So what I'm giving you here is an overview. It's not legal advice. You need to do some work on this yourself. A private company is a separate entity which can employ you. A limited company has what's called limited liability, which means your personal assets are not responsible. You're not responsible for your personal assets if there's issues with the company, because it's the company's assets that would be at stake, as it were. A private company can employ people and pay all of their legal expenses, including tax. As I mentioned previously, the public sector tends to prefer corporate organisations, as they view that their risk is lower, and there are a number of other issues as well around that. So what is the against incorporation? Companies with limited liability guaranteed have boards. Companies breed internal politics. Obviously, if it's a very small company, that's going to be more limited. Bigger organizations have bigger problems you can't always control in all sorts of areas. And then there's a lack of, in some cases at least, individual action. And then there's issues about working conditions, mode, and flexibility. But again, it does depend on if you're a one-person company. It's very similar to a sole trader. There are some legal differences, and of course, it's a corporate structure as well. But if your business employs several people, or it's more established, then some of those issues may arise. The next type is a social enterprise, sometimes called a not-for-profit company, or a company limited by guarantee, or a community interest company. There's different types. Again, you can set it up as a corporate body, often through Companies House, where you register private limited companies. You can have charitable objectives, and you can grow significantly while retaining charitable objectives, and you can also benefit from grant funding. So we'll move on from that. What is there against social enterprise structures? They've got the same characteristics as other corporate bodies, together with potential corporate problems. You're competing with the private sector. It's not a status that's always well understood by funding agencies or commissioners. And the private sector and charitable sector cultures can often clash, resulting in mission drift, because often they have a social remit or responsibility, and they have to be a profit-making body as well. So that can lead to mission drift, as the point that I make there. And both objectives can conflict on some occasions, but not always. So in terms of registering yourself as a business, there's a couple of links here. A lot of this is online now. That's the government website. If you want to set up as a self-employed person, that's through HMRC. Again, if you want to set up a corporate structure, whether it's a profit-making or non-profit-making company, you can do this via Companies House. Again, if you're setting up a company, I would suggest you might want to get some advice through an accountant, solicitor, or FSB if you're a member, or advice from someone else. with social enterprises, it does depend on the legal structure you want to adopt. Some can be companies, some can be other structures. So again, we run a lot of work around that. That's something that we can advise on here, and there are other organisations. I've put FSB have a lot of information, the Federation of Small Businesses, about this, and another very good site is the London Business Hub, and the website address is there, which gives a lot of background information about setting up a business, whether it's as a self-employed sole trader or a company, or indeed other structures. Other things that you should be aware of, I'm not going to talk a lot about these, but you need to be aware of them. As an employer, even for yourself, you've got to be aware of health and safety responsibilities, both for yourself and for any people that you work with, and you do have some liability here. My advice is to, again, there are bodies that can do that. FSB can give some advice on this, and the health and safety executive, whose link I put there, you can get a lot of very useful information, and they've got some excellent publications. I've got some of them myself, and which gives you a lot of background about this, so that you're aware of what the issues are. Another one that I'm sure many of you will be aware of is issues around data protection. These became law in 2018, something called GDPR-General Data Protection Regulation, and there are a lot of procedural rules about data management and collection. Again, I could spend the rest of this presentation on this. I'm not going to go into it in a lot of detail, but if you want information on that, there's a website address at the moment, which is the Information Commission office, the ico.org.uk, which gives a lot of very good information about this, and is well worth checking out. Another area that we have a lot of specialism here, because our consultancy does work around fundraising and business support, is funding your business. There are traditional routes. You can use your own money or savings, or family and friends chipping in. You can get loans from the bank or other sources, or you can go after a range of other things, including grant funding. Again, we do some advice about this here, and for non-profit making businesses, there's even more out there. But across the board, one very good place to look at is the Entrepreneur's Handbook, which I'd recommend anyway, because it gives a lot of very useful information about how to set up and run a business. But it's also got 60 pages of grant funding. It is UK-wide, but there's some very useful links in there. So funding is obviously a big issue, and you need to familiarise yourself with financial management related issues too. Here's some other support. One or two of these I would really recommend. The British Library, they're running a lot of support at the moment for people who wish to become self-employed or develop their businesses. I do some work for them myself, on and off. In South London, they've been running a program during the past year, and they have got some library-based services, which of course have been online. Depending on what happens with the pandemic, some of them will be live again. So check out the British Library website there. It's well worth it, and they've got a lot of very good information about intellectual property and related issues as well as support for people on that, which is really excellent, and I can't recommend it too highly. Another area of that I've already mentioned that people can look at is loan funding. There's a whole range of organisations out there. Again, if anybody wants to know more about that, if they can contact us at CNT, we can give some information about that. I'm not going to talk too much about this because we need to crack on with a few other areas. Another good source for all of these that I just mentioned is the Entrepreneur's Handbook, and that just gives a range of grant funding opportunities, including the amount, the grant criteria, coverage, and more. So well worth checking that out. Here's another good site to look at as well. It's the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. And there's a link there on financial support, which is very comprehensive and lists a lot of government grants. It's free. Most of these I'm mentioning today are free. There are one or two pay ones, but I'll mention them if I refer to them as we go through. We've got a lot of women on this call today, so I thought I would include a few slides on support for women-led businesses. Here is one called Enterprise Nation, which is the biggest private sector business support organisation in the UK, set up about 10 years ago by a woman called Emma Harrison. One of the things that they do is they run something called the Enterprise Nation Female Startup of the Year, and there's a lot of prizes. They have an award ceremony. It's been online for the last 2 years, but hopefully that will return to being a live event soon. But they've had a whole range of prizes that go with it, as well as coaching and mentoring support and a range of other things, and not to say the publicity that comes with taking part or winning this competition. Here is another one. This is around funding from an organisation called the Fredericks Foundation. They've been around for about 70 years. They're actually a charity. They do other things as well, but to support businesses and social enterprises. One of the things they've got is a women's loan fund. It's a $2 million fund to provide loans to women-led businesses, particularly those with a viable business plan who've been turned down by conventional lenders. And you can get loans of up to £15,000 for startups and follow-on loans of up to £35,000 to support growth. We'll move on now. This is something I've already mentioned. This is the British Library IP Centre, Intellectual Property Centre, and many businesses now, particularly in the digital age, rely on intellectual property. So you've got to know something about it, how to protect it, how to register it, etc., etc. Before the pandemic, the British Library, the main libraries at King's Cross, and they ran a lot of things there. They are running some things still in local libraries. You need to check the website, but of course a lot of this is now online, and they have a lot of videos and presentations that you can access. Here's some of the things that they've been doing previously. You need to check if they're up to date. £10,000 worth of free support through the Innovating for Growth programme, and that's consultancy support in some cases to help you develop your skills and ideas, and then you can access things like the company databases and learn new skills on their workshop programs. So a lot of stuff out there. Another way to develop your business in terms of funding is through crowdfunding. Again, many businesses have started to do this, and indeed social enterprises, there's a number of sites there. Crowdcube.com is a bit like, and this is run by the Virgin Group, Richard Branson's businesses, and it's a bit like Dragon's Den. People invest money in businesses for a share of them. If it succeeds, then they've got a share in a profitable business. If it doesn't, then obviously their money is at risk. But there are others around as well that operate slightly different models, like crowdfunder.co.uk, which has community projects on as well. Again, that's well worth looking at. But basically, these platforms charge you between 4 and 9% of what you raise, because people pledge the money to them, and then they pass it on to you once you've got to the end of your crowdfunding period. Again, if you want to know more about that, CNT is running a funding for businesses event, Zoom presentation 2 weeks today. So if you check our website, you'll see the details of that. One of the other key things of being a consultant, particularly in a very competitive business environment, where there's lots of consultants and consultancies about, is what's called establishing a niche market. Whatever it is, you need to seriously consider this, because the idea is, you know, it's been around for quite a long time, that you establish yourself as an expert in a particular field, whatever it is. For example, we do fundraising here, and we've been doing it for a long time, so we do specialize in that. There are other people who do this, but you need to know your target niche market inside out. It's really about solving your customers' problems, whatever they are, and offering solutions to do that. You need to rethink how you spread the word about your business constantly. We'll look at a bit of this a bit later. And you need to market your services, keep tabs on your niche market and your competitors, be open to new opportunities, and listen to your customers, whoever they are. And if you don't, that will certainly lead to issues. How do you do this? There's a number of ways. Again, I'm not going to say too much about this, but start from basics. Write a business plan. All the research shows that businesses that write a business plan have a 20% likelihood of more highest extent of establishing themselves as a business than others. I think that is just because of the focus, and you're putting your ideas down on paper, and of course you're putting in things like budgets and other things. So it's focusing on your business and how to run and develop it. And then one of the things that would come out of that is associated marketing and action plans, because how you actualize that business plan is something that will happen over time, and it needs to be constantly reviewed. And then, of course, part of that is identifying your target market, whatever that is, and how to access it. You know, what is your unique selling point, etc., etc. These days, a lot of people are using web-based marketing, person-to-person marketing. And in a lot of the new industries, it's about your personal story. People are interested in that. And that's something you really need to work on. And then they use a number of mediums, including who you know, business networking, tendering, and then a whole range of other tools like LinkedIn. If you're establishing yourself as a consultant and you're not on LinkedIn, I think you really need to be. I think, what is it? Last time I read the figures of 600 million people worldwide on it. So that is a big way of communicating. We certainly use it. MailChimp, which is a database driven tool, Instagram, and others. I'm sure all of you could name many others. You've got to find the right one for your business. Number of other points you need to consider. How to hold on to existing clients while sourcing new ones. Your first year of consultancy might be your most successful. Why is this? Because all your contacts are fresh, and your skills are the most up to date. Beyond that, one of the things about consultancy is it's short term, and you know, your clients, even if they're very satisfied with your work, may not have the budget to continue with your services for a period of time. So you need to be doing business development continuously and communicating regularly with clients and prospects. Few tips about business development. There are a lot of people out there. I'm bombarded with people who say they can generate business leads and sales for us. I have to say, generally, I don't believe them. I think you've got to find your own path to this, or work with somebody who can help you get there, another consultant perhaps. But here's some examples. LinkedIn profile, I've already mentioned it. Facebook ads, Facebook Live, Google AdWords. Partnership work, that's you're free to do that. Or another one is interim management. That is managing other organizations on a consultancy basis, particularly if you've got specialist skills. So there are a whole range of ways to do this. Again, that's probably worth another conversation elsewhere. I'm going to move on now because time's moving on. One of the things I'm always asked is, how do you work out what to charge? There's a number of ways of doing this. I suppose the easiest one is to double or triple your hourly wage, whatever you want to earn. I used to work for a big consultancy firm, and the first thing they said to me on the first day was, we expect you to bring in income 3 times your salary, which was a bit of a challenge to a new consultant, but that's how bigger consultancy firms work. Maybe more these days, I don't know. But other ways to do this is using a daily rate for consultants, setting consultancy fees by the project, find out what others charge and do that. That's a very easy way to do it. Setting consultancy fees based on performance, setting consultancy fees strategically using real life data. That's finding out what people are charging you in your sector and trying to get to the to a point that is suitable for your business, and moving to solution-based fees. You know, you charge a certain amount of money for achieving a certain objective, whatever that is. So there's some of the ways to do it. Again, we have a longer course where we go into that in a lot more detail. What are the successful characteristics of consultants? Here are some of them. Well-organized, structured but flexible services, visible presence, and you've got to have that on the web and social networks. And then you either go in for a niche market, or you have a more diverse range of clients, which is nice, but that's much more difficult to achieve. Become established as an expert in your field, so you become the kind of go-to person. If you have a speciality, ensure that your social media and other marketing reflect that. So if you work in childcare, for example, or construction, you need to really reflect that in all of your branding. Finally, have an established supply chain. Work with others. You know, we work with other consultancies. Sometimes we refer people to them, they refer people to us. We build up our own network, and that can often sustain you. That's a very good way to sustain yourself, and work with other people as well. Make good use of IC and social media. Again, I think that goes without saying. You have to have documented policies, processes, and procedures on all sorts of things these days. Data protection, health and safety, safeguarding, if you work in more social areas, and a whole range of others. Look at quality assurance and continuous improvement programs. I've had a number of guests on my webinars, and one of the things they say to me is that you have to be innovative, the more successful ones, and able to reinvent them yourselves over a period of time. You may be delivering the same services. We've been working for over 10 years. We're still delivering some similar services, but the way they're delivered are very different now. And then you've got to move into new markets as necessary, because technology changes things. Society changes things, government changes things. There's all sorts of things out there that can change business and the way we do business. We need to look at extending your client base. This is quite an important thing. Once you become established, there's many ways to do it. These are non-digital ways now. Offline marketing, you know, letters, posters, leaflets, etc., who you know, trade associations, events, presentations, and networking. Some business networks, I've given a few there. We've got our own. And then other things like an elevator pitch, which is a 1-minute pitch about your business that you need to use, and thinking of other ways to market yourself. Again, I'm not going to say too much about this, but marketing and promotion is a big area now, and I list a few things there. Again, we go into much more detail on some of the other courses that we run. But social media is obviously big on this. And then if you're community-based, you should look to local events run by the local authority or major agencies or housing associations, whoever. And then there's other ways to do it now. One of the ones I'd like to point out here is through using Shopify, which is an online store to develop a business for some consultants anyway. It depends what you're working. But if, for example, hospitality, catering, fashion industry, that might be a good way to illustrate your work, but there are others as well. And then membership of trade bodies. I mean, these are quite important for making contacts and picking up businesses, chambers of commerce, FSB, and then many other local forums. And then, of course, the other thing is capture and record recommendations, endorsements, testimonials, and case studies, because that's a lot of studies have shown that's been very, very important in how people choose consultants and other self-employed people as well. Again, there's a few other ways there: speaking at conference, trade journals, events, when you can do that, lever events to upsell potential clients free training or research, to disseminate findings or data, sponsor events, or organizing your own networking events. So in the final section, just a few tips, how to hone your skills, develop an action plan. Ideally, you should be developing a business plan, but out of that will come an action plan. You write your goals down, list the barriers to achieving success, what is getting in your way, and how you can overcome it. Just by writing that down, at least you're focusing on it, even if it's not solving the problem immediately. And maybe you can get advice from somebody to help you as well. List the achievements of reaching your goals, and exactly what you'll gain from reaching your goal is a strong motivator. List any subsidiary goals. Try and break things down into kind of bite-sized chunks, and improve your skills. Very important in many areas these days. And that's something you need to consider if you go out on your own. If you work for a big organization, maybe you've got in-house training, but if you're on your own, you either get it from some other source for free or you pay for it. But you can get support from others and work with others as well. Professional development is very important, and there are sources of help you can get for this. Again, I've mentioned some here: London Business Hub, the government funding website, and a range of other organisations. So that's brought me to the end of this. I'm going to stop the share, and I'm quite happy to take any questions from people on this. I realise I've covered a lot of ground. If you can raise your hand either on screen or on the participants side of things. While Stuart is speaking, I will check the chat and I'll respond after Stuart's questions. So I can't see any right now. So I've talked quite a lot today. So I'm now going to introduce you to Stuart Crichton. Stuart's somebody I've known for a number of years, and he's an independent consultant. So Stuart, are you with us? he is online there. I'm just waiting for Stuart to come in. He may have some technical difficulties. Rachel, as you're there, do you want to do your bit now, if that's okay? And we'll see if we can get Stuart back in a minute.
Yeah, no problem at all. Hi, everybody. As Gary said, I'm actually a membership advisor with the Federation of Small Businesses, FSB for short. So hopefully some of you have heard of us, but for those of you that haven't, we're actually a not-for-profit campaigning group who make sure that councils, local authorities, government have small business issues and think about small businesses when they're rolling out policies or making changes within their borough. But as for our members, we also offer absolutely loads of benefits which help businesses, and in particular startups always benefit so much from it because there's a lot of free advice, free support, free documents, etc. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to share my screen and talk you through the FSB website, which might sound silly, but it can be overwhelming when you first land on it because there is so much information. So I thought if I run through it, at least you have an idea of where to find things, what you're looking for, and we can take it from there. So, right, let me just see if I can find the right page. There we go. Right. You should all be able to see that now. So thumbs up for anybody that I can see their face, if you can see it. Perfect, lovely. Right, FSB, the website is FSB, so Foxtrot Sierra Bravo.org.uk. And when you land on it, you will automatically be taken to the campaigning page. And this talks about, I suppose, some of the bigger campaigns that we do. But we also work on lots of little ones. There are lots that don't feature on here that will be relevant to your businesses. But these are more of the larger ones that will be important to you at some point in the future. So whether it is sustainability, late payments, because unfortunately, most small businesses at some point will send out an invoice and that client doesn't pay it. But I've already posted in the chat about starting your business and how we can help you there. But there's lots of information there. I'll then take you to the events side of things. So Gary's already touched on networking. Networking is a massive part of building your business and actually getting the exposure that you need, although it can be time consuming. So you have to be really careful what you go to. I go to the opening of an envelope, but that's because I have to meet lots of small business owners. So any opportunity I get, I'm out there, but it's because there isn't necessarily a lot of work involved in the background in my business because I'm self-employed in this role. So we put on lots of events that can connect you with potential clients, but also potential collaborations and friends and family of people that you might want to work with. So under the events calendar, you will find lots of different types of events. We do networking, masterclasses, and also webinars. So webinars are your bigger national type presentations that talk to you about changes maybe in legislations. When the pandemic hit, there was obviously lots of questions for small businesses around that. Masterclasses are put on by members and they will be tips and learnings that you can pick up maybe in a lunch break, that type of thing. And then virtual networking speaks for itself. A little tip for you, please don't use this search bar if you are looking for events, because that was well and good when they were physical and it had a postcode attached to it. But of course, they're all virtual at the moment. So whatever you type in here is not going to find what you're after. So use the regions tab. And I'll select Greater London, obviously, because that's where I'm based, but you can actually go to events anywhere. So if your business, your consultancy is not limited just to your local area, well, then why not try some of the ones further afield as well? And you can actually build your presence that way. But there's lots of different ones to choose from. So an event, when it's got a location name, that's just depicting if it was a physical event, where it would be based. And if somebody from the local council comes along, that's what council they will be from. So it gives you a bit of an idea. But have a look through there. If you aren't used to networking, shout. I'm sure we can give you some tips and techniques, because like anything, you do have to put yourself out there and you do have to follow up and make contact with people. But also just remember, you don't go along to networking expecting to pick up business. Please don't sell at people, because that's not what, you wouldn't like it and other people don't like it either. So we can always help you with that sort of thing if needs be. Please ignore the join us bit, because that's what I'm here for. So if you do want to know more about membership, then obviously I can talk to you about that, but I will go through some bits in a minute as well. There are also lots of various different webinars on the Skills Hub, but some documents as well. I have put a link in the chat to help, but they're all various different areas that relate to business. So some of the guys are for FSB members only, but there are also lots of useful blogs, webinars, information. If you're looking at social media, for example, because Gary's also touched on LinkedIn profiles, but depending what sort of consultant you're going to be, if you're maybe consulting for creatives, Instagram might be better for you. So if you have a look at the Get Started with Social tab, it will give you some hour-long webinars on how to market yourself on the various different platforms. But have a look through it. There's lots of useful information there. Now, when it comes to FSB, I've already touched on that we offer our members amazing benefits. So they include things like free business legal advice. I think when everybody starts their own business, they're shocked at how much support you do actually need and how many documents that you potentially need as well. So as a member, you can call up the legal helpline 24/7 and speak to the right type of solicitor. So they will call you back within an hour and answer the questions that you've got, issues that you've got, and any advice that they're giving you over the phone is absolutely free and it's uncapped. You've also got linked to it what's called the Legal Hub, and on there you would have access to about 1,100, 1,200 documents that you might need as a small business owner. So that will involve things like terms and conditions, contracts, non-disclosure agreements, but so much more. Things like GDPR, data protection, trademarking, they're all things that when you're starting off and you're potentially creating online courses or webinars that you don't think about. But what you don't want is for you to be offering out all of this information and then somebody else taking it and using it. So you need to think about all of these things. FSB can offer you the advice for free, a lot of the documents for free, and a lot of the support as well. You also need to look at things like your insurances, business banking. FSB can help you with that as well. So most of the time people don't know what insurances they need, so we can give you a health check and talk you through what your business or businesses do, and then we can even quote you for it. And more often than not, we will come up cheaper, although it is a very competitive field, so we're not always the cheapest. But if we're not, at least we've given you the information, and we will still act as an advice line for you. So we're still a point of contact. And if you're looking for a business bank account that doesn't charge you, FSB can help you with that as well. But there's so much more to it. Obviously, depending on everybody's business will depend which bits are relevant to you, hence why it's always worth having a chat so that I can understand what you're going to be doing, because it might be health and safety is important. You might be looking to recruit. They're all different conversations that we will have, and then I can talk about the various different benefits, because there's about 20 of them that you would have access to if you became a member. I've put all my details in the chat. I've even put my Calendly link, so you don't even have to talk to me. You can literally just book a time and we can have a Zoom or a phone call, whatever's better for you. Connect on LinkedIn if we haven't already. I know I've connected with some of you. If I haven't sent you a link, it's because I either don't know who you are from your name on here, but also sometimes there's more than one person, so I can't always identify you. But please feel free to connect, because there's always lots of useful information and lots of sharing that goes around small businesses, because unlike when we work in the corporate world, the competition is very much, we don't like them, we hate them, they're the enemy. In small business, it's not. We are all trying to survive. We all want to succeed, and we all actually want everybody else to, because if the industry is thriving, then the chances are we will be as well. So it is a lot about collaborations, networks, and sharing ideas, failures, and that type of information. But I'll stop there. I won't waffle on because I can literally talk for Britain. But I put all my details there, and if I can answer any questions, I certainly will.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Rachel. And just to reiterate, I myself, I've been a member of FSB for a long, long time, and I would recommend it to others. And if you want to join, go to Rachel. Don't do it online. Join via Rachel, because she puts in a lot of effort and deserves some reward. Okay, Stuart, are you with us now? Stuart's had a few technical problems.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah.
Sorry about that. I'm on my iPhone now rather than my laptop, so I've turned the video off because it'll help me perform better.
Okay, I'm going to ask Stuart a few questions. Stuart's an independent consultant. He's been a consultant for a number of years. So Stuart, please tell us about your background in consultancy and the consultancy work that you actually do.
Okay. My background is my career started in IT in the old mainframe days as an operator, technical, managerial, and then I sort of developed into a business management and sales, running the outsourcing IT business for a large company in the UK. And so that took up to the first 20 years of my career, and then just over 20 years ago, I moved into a new role, which was working with the public sector to improve performance. And I was appointed as a board director of a startup company called Kendrick Ash. We had strategic partnerships with local government particularly. And we entered into contracts on a risk-reward model, commercial model, which was two phases really. What the first phase would be a typical consultancy phase, which would be review the service and develop an improvement plan. The second phase, which was the name of the game, what we're trying to achieve was get a long-term contract to actually deliver the plan. And one of the incentives to clients of us doing that was to actually link payment of the fees against actually delivery of the plan, so actually achieving the outcomes. And for the last 18 years, I've been working in a similar way as an independent operator. Now I went out my own. Clearly, I don't take the level of commercial risk that Kendrick Ash did with the risk-reward model, but doing the same sort of things. But in terms of consultancy, I never ever had a conscious plan to be a consultant as a career, and so evolved into it as you know, in my role, which includes consultancy as a component. I mean, my business model is one about improving service of the public sector. And it can include some or all of coaching and mentoring, change management, process and systems engineering, leadership of organisations, and organisation development. It can be a mix and match of those, but it always includes an element of consultancy within it, because the first phase will be review what's going on now to understand what needs to be done to improve it.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. And what benefit does consultancy bring both to your clients and to you as a consultant yourself?
Yeah, I mean, the sort of things I hear repeated back from clients, and also I actually witnessed myself through working with them. You can see, particularly if you're with clients for a long time, and I was with the London Borough of Bexley for about 12 years in various roles, helping. Probably there isn't a service in Bexley I didn't get involved in, but independence is one that is perceived by the client as being a real added value, which helps them get around some of the internal barriers, some of the internal politics, because you're perceived to have no axe to grind. And to be honest, some of the consultancy piece of work we do, quite often the client knows the answer when they ask you to come in and do the piece of work. They can't get past some of the internal barriers, and having the independent advice. And clearly, there's an integrity here. If you as a consultant don't believe the client's right your sponsor what he's doing, you say that. But if what he wants to do is the right thing, then you're helping him sell his case internally. There's one of the other key things which doesn't get mentioned very often is the amount of times you go into service and the operational or head of service says what you're doing is actually what I've always had plans or wanted to do, but I've got a day job, I've got distractions of a day job, I can't even get the business case developed. Sometimes you get the opposite of that. You'll get someone digging their heels in and not playing ball. But generally, it does get, it enables organisations to move forward with the extra capacity and make something happen which they thought they wanted to do but never got around to be able to do it. And the third one is the expertise, that capacity, and the wider knowledge of the fact that I work at sort of 50 local authorities. Most people in local authorities might work in 2 or 3 in their whole career, and I've worked probably in 50 local authorities in a sort of 10-year period, so that you bring in some wider experience and best practice.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask 2 questions together now, I guess. What are the biggest challenges you have faced as a consultant in your consultancy business, and how did you address these challenges?
One is the cynical image or distrust of the title consultant. If I did have a penny for every time I've been given the classic statement of, we give you your watch to charge us to tell you what the time is, I wouldn't be working, I'd be retired now. That's a key one. And the Kendrick Ash model I explained earlier about linking fees to outcomes was one of the ways of getting around that. But clearly, as independent consultants, that is a big risk, and most independent consultants wouldn't want to take that on. But there's a few things which you can use to try and overcome that. But the key one is the consultancy role is about building relationships and focusing on good communication and displaying integrity, overtly displaying integrity, and doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. But relationships, I think everything I get involved in all walks of my career, including consultancy, is about strong relationships. And COVID period has made that more difficult than normal, because trying to build relationships with people you've never met face to face over a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting isn't the easiest. And so to be honest, the last 15 months of me has been a challenge because of that, and I'm looking forward to not going into the office every day, but being able to get some face-to-face meetings.
I think we'd all agree with that. And finally, what advice would you give to a person who is just starting out a new career as a consultant? Is there any particular one or 2 pieces of advice you'd give to them?
If you're going to operate as an independent consultant as opposed to a career consultant joining a PwC as a sort of graduate, it would be, before you did it, have a strong network, and clearly a network where you've got a good reputation, and that can be everything, because from customers that you've worked with before, colleagues you've worked with, your employers, all the stakeholders, because it's amazing how the people that you have worked with before, if you've got a good reputation, will use you to help them. But linked to that is that there's never a better saying than out of sight, out of mind. Just because you know them, you work together, and they rate you, you need to consciously remind them that you're there and you're available. Because the amount of times I get someone just pure luck, you talk to someone at the right time and they go, "Gosh, I've got this problem over here. I never thought of you." Go, yeah, you'd be the ideal person for it. Because over time, if you're not dealing on a day-to-day basis, it's easy just to forget that you exist, to be honest. So putting a lot of work into that is essential. Good.
Thank you very much for that, Stuart. And because I know there's some people on today who are just either about to start or they're interested in doing this. So there's some words of someone who's a very experienced consultant there. and I would concur with everything that Stuart said there. Hopefully, if we do this again, Stuart, we'll be able to overcome the technical difficulties and be able to see you next time. But thank you for your contribution today. It's much appreciated. Are there any other questions that people want to ask Stuart, myself, or Rachel as well? If Linda.
Hi Stuart, hi Rachel, thanks for the presentation, and thanks Gary once again. For somebody that's starting out, so I work in the education sector. I do work in higher education, and I'm now in the process of trying to set up a CIO. It's not officially registered yet, and I have tested the project as a community. It started off as a community idea, and now it's, you know, through testimonials, I was able to get some form of funding. Now, just reflecting back to what you said, Gary, about being able to sustain a business model and the fact that businesses within 5 years tend to fail. What would you say are the key successes in being able to sustain a business, especially in consultancy as well?
Stuart, do you want to say something about that first?
The two things that come straight to mind are cash flow, to agreeing terms where you're fairly confident you're going to, like if you can do terms where you have payment in advance, even if it's part payment in advance. So some of the things I do on projects is I prefer not to use day rates. It gets too analytical when you get the wrong client who's looking at the clock, time watching. So if I sometimes split it into 3 payments, one at the beginning, one in the middle, and one went, the third of it at deliverables. That's a key one. And the other one is when you're busy, trying to still dedicate time to develop the market. It can be otherwise very much a feast or famine, where you've got loads of work, you haven't done any networking or marketing or sales for a year, 2 years even, and then you've got no work for 6 months to a year and no money while you're reinvigorating the market again.
Thank you for that. Some interesting points there. I would add to that, obviously, if you're adopting a non-profit making model, you can apply for grant funding as well. You can sell that. Because non-profit models in certain sectors, and education is one of them, are growing, but because the reason for that is quite simple. You can still charge for the service, whatever it is. You can charge some client services, but also you can get grant funding from charitable trusts and a range of other sources. And that will help you address some of the issues that Stuart raised around cash flow, etc., etc. I mean, it's not an exact science, because some grants are project based, but and some grants have to be spent on specific projects and programs, others less so, but it will help you develop a financial model that can be more robust than just relying off sales. Although with any non-profit making business, the long-term aim is to be as financially stable as any private business. The grants and other funding are particularly in the early periods are appropriate, or to develop new services perhaps, but you still have to, this is the issue I mentioned earlier about mission drift between your social aims and functioning as a business. So it is quite tough, but these are all starting to merge. Many private businesses have the same ethos, ethics, and they have the same issues as well. In fact, many of them find it more difficult to get grant funding. Those are some other ways you can address that through grant funding. And then there's some other things I mentioned there as well, like crowdfunding appeals, things like that. They might bring in some money and also generate some publicity for you. I don't know whether you've got anything to add to any of that, Rachel, because I know you deal with a lot of organisations.
Sorry, no. I can never follow up on after you, Gary, because you always have so much input.
Oh, okay.
You're the guru.
I've got one to add, Gary. Just what I think of it is organising your reference clients. So who is it that's going to be out there that's going to, particularly on the early, when you're trying to win your first customers, who are you going to point the potential new customer at that's going to give you the reference that you need? Because you're starting from a blank sheet of paper to a certain degree.
Yes, that's a very good point, because again, with individual recommendations. I mean, somebody mentioned Trustpilot earlier, and things like that. It's very important now. Individual recommendation is very important, and what Stuart has just mentioned, reference clients as well, are equally, probably not more important, because you may have to use these people as references, etc., etc. So you need to make sure that they are on the same page as you. And there are some restrictions with some people as well, even when you've done a good job. Like, for example, with public bodies, they do have to be quite careful that they're not seen to be endorsing particular businesses. So, but you can still get references from people on an individual basis. It's just, you just need to be aware of that. So the
I can hear myself coming through again. It was myself that put the Trustpilot thing in there, because I know FSB have been really big on pushing that lately. But it's also don't be embarrassed to ask. If I join someone up to FSB and you're on LinkedIn, I will automatically send a recommendation request, because when people go onto your profile on LinkedIn, for example, they will have a look through, see what you do, but they will go to your recommendations. And of course, everybody says something different, and it actually has a person attached to it that they can then look at, which one is good potentially for your clients as well. But at the same time, they will see people that are working in the same industry or maybe have the same sort of problem. And of course, it becomes, I suppose, more real. And I'm not ashamed when somebody puts something good on there. I will screenshot it, I will turn it into a post, and then I'll make a post of it. I'll put it on Instagram, I'll put it on Facebook, and I share it, because especially the women amongst us, we have, most of us, imposter syndrome a lot of the time. We have to step out of that, and we have to go, do you know what? Someone said something good. I am going to share that with the world. So make the most of it, and don't be ashamed to ask. You're muted, Gary.
Sorry, some very good points there from Rachel about this, because that is quite important. And it's an issue with a lot of startups. It's an issue with a lot of women-led businesses, imposter syndrome. Well, you have to find ways to overcome it, and Rachel's just given you, so maybe that's something we'll talk out. I might even add that to this, because this is the first time we've done this online today, so I think that it needs some sections need to be added to and others amended. Yeah, there's some so I hope you've got some sage advice there, Linda, from your expert panel here. And we've actually run over time now, so I'd like to thank you all for attending today. Today was the first time we've done this particular course online. It was a workshop previously, so we will be running this again, hopefully, in the near future. But thank you for attending today. One thing I would like to put in a plug for, as Rachel's here, next Wednesday from 11 till 12:30, I host the FSB Bexley Connect Online event, which is a monthly networking event, and we've got a very good speaker who's she's going to speak about digital marketing, and that's free. You have to log into the FSB's website. You don't have to pay to join FSB, but you can join these networks for free. So I hope you'll consider joining us. You don't have to be from Bexley, because this is a London-wide network, and there's lots of, well, indeed, it's a national network. I don't know whether you want to add anything to that, Rachel, just before we finish.
I have literally just shoved the link in the chat as well.
Okay, she's so fast. You have to watch Rachel. She doesn't miss anything. Yeah, so that link.
Could I get an idea, and obviously you don't have to answer, if there are any Greenwich or Bexley businesses on here today? No, okay, no, that's all right. I was going to add something else in there, but if they're not, then okay. I know we've got a one-to-one. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name, so I can mention what I was going to say to you when we speak.
Yeah, we've got Nagalazu Theory, who is from Bexley, and I don't know some of the other people on here today, but I hope you found this interesting. We'll be finishing shortly. Just want to mention two things. You'll get an email very shortly with some offers from us for support. But if you want to go onto our website, my details are in the chat. All our events are on there. We've even got our own YouTube channel now. And you're welcome to join our mailing list, and we will send you information about that. So email us. Again, my details are in the chat for anybody who wants to join our mailing list, and we do not give the data to anyone else. So thank you all for joining us today. I hope to see you soon. Our next webinar is in 2 weeks' time, which is funding for businesses and social enterprises. So I hope some of you will be joining us for that. It is a free event and is about funding you can potentially access right now for your business or social enterprise. And Rachel will be there as well. So you can talk to her again if you want to. So I'd like to thank Stuart for coming on today and maintaining his presence despite the technical problems. And I'd like to thank Rachel as well, and hope to see you all soon. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers all.
Thanks very much.